Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me? I don't even know where to look at chat.
Hi, Cody.
Hi.
Hi, we can hear you very well.
Awesome. Yeah, I had to download on my phone. Sorry again. I feel like this should be expected now at this point that I'm going to have some technological issue going into one of these things if people know my relationship with technology on Twitter at this point.
You're okay. You're not alone, I promise. I don't know if we should give more people a minute to join or when you would like us to start.
Yeah, I mean, we can get started whenever you'd like. I don't mind. Whatever's easier for you.
Okay. All right, I guess I'll get started then. First,
Mhm.
I'd like to say hi.
Hi.
And is it weird to have a name to a voice to the name that you've been speaking to? I feel
Totally.
like,
No, you are definitely one of the diehard supporters of following me on Twitter, so I appreciate it. But yeah, it is good to hear your voice finally.
oh yeah, of course. It's very cool. Well, I get to hear yours all the time, so it's always exciting for me though.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll try to crank out more content soon.
Oh, good. Well, I'll look forward to it. Well, I'll start by saying I couldn't come up with any of my own questions. I was too nervous. But a bunch of my friends got together and we pooled a bunch of questions together. So I'll be pulling a couple from that if that's okay.
Of course.
And, I took four for now, but if there's time later, we had a lot. So if it's okay to come back later, I might try, but I'll just start with these four.
Sure.
All right, cool. So my first question is asked by my friend Spooky, who you might recognize as Spooky FBI on here.
Yeah.
They asked, "What do you think is Dave's favorite thing about Klaus, and what are your thoughts on Klaus?"
Interesting. Dave's favorite thing about Klaus. Uh, I mean, obviously, he's probably stood out to Dave hugely at in Vietnam. Um, so there's probably something about his presence, and there's something about I think both Robert and the character that there's kind of an immediate openness to Klaus. I find that's like attracts people to him. They're you know how people are sort of naturally charismatic that way when they're very unafraid to be themselves. I would say that that is probably the initial sort of attraction to him. Um, yeah, and I think that definitely carries over of my view of Klaus as well too. I think that um, he definitely goes by the beat of his own drum, and there is something endearing in that about him.
Hmm. Absolutely. All
Mhm.
right. Well, good answer.
Thanks.
My next question is by the same person, and they said, "Has your view on Dave evolved since playing him in season one? And if so, how?"
I guess, yeah. I think it's again, it's such a small character. It's really tricky. Um, like looking at it now. I mean, I definitely did a bunch of research in the period, um, just sort of looking at the world, and I mean, being sort of a closeted homosexual in Vietnam is sort of tricky in and of itself. Um, but I looked more at the period and what he would have been listening to, what the influences were, what was going on, and then you just sort of let all of that go on the day, and you really try to connect with that. And I mean, I feel really thankful that I've got to have played Dave, but there's also like, in a way, it's no longer just my role anymore, right? Like Calum's come in and Calum's did his thing as well too, and I think that's the beautiful thing is it doesn't belong to me, and then it's also great because the audience takes it on, and they've got their own idea. Like there's a lot of um, sort of fan fiction out there about Dave and things like that, and I think that's a beautiful thing about a TV show, especially when it's so small that's gotten so big, is that people can fill in the gaps however they see it. And I think there has to be a quality to that of any actor that you can't really be too possessive about a character because ultimately people are going to make it their own to some degree. And I think that's been the great thing watching this. I mean, it's been really exciting to be a part of the sort of zeitgeist, but it's been great sort of seeing how people kind of appropriate different parts of Dave for themselves. And I'm like, because of season 2 onward, it's been great just sort of being a spectator and watching how everything sort of unfolds as well. So I kind of get the best of both worlds, that I get to see it unfold, and then also having been a part of it has been a blessing.
Very cool. That's awesome. Good. Another good answer.
Thanks.
Okay.
2 for 2.
Yes, excellent. Also, I just wanted to really quick say that since this was an Umbrella Academy thing, I did gear the questions that I chose towards the Umbrella Academy. But I just wanted to let you know too that of course we love you for so much more than Dave. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's known.
I appreciate it. It's tricky, right? Because as an actor, like, obviously the big projects, people are going to know you for that role, and especially like the fan base is so diehard, so they're going to hold that near and dear. And it's tricky as an actor because I mean the role is ultimately, like, I was on set for 4 days, so I have a very different relationship with connecting to it and in regards to my career as a whole than other fans do. And I again, that's something that I can't control, though. If people really sort of connect me with that, then that's on them. But I do find it exciting when people sort of, maybe that's the doorway into my work, and then they start to seek out other stuff that I've done, and can sort of speak to that stuff, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I know that for me, Dave was the first role that I had seen of yours, but it encouraged me to look into more of your work. And you are one of my favorite actors, and I adore you. So,
Oh, thank you so
sure.
much. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. Of course. Okay, my next question is from my friend Nora, and she asks, the briefcase could have taken Klaus to any place in history. Do you have any theories as to why the briefcase brought Klaus to Dave's bedside?
Good question, Nora. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not in the writer's room here, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting because it's like you could look at it as something to do with fate, or you could look at it as, there's some important connection to Dave. Um, I like the idea that it's like of destiny to some degree. That there is that's sort of the missing piece for Klaus to some degree. And I think that a lot of the fandom connects that with Dave too, right? That he fills this sort of void in Klaus. So you're right, there is something that feels intentional about it, but I don't know. We'll just have to see what they do with season 3 to see if the timeline it loops back in as well too. I'm just as interested as you are, so we'll see.
Excellent. And then, kind of picking back onto that question, we were also wondering when Klaus returned from Vietnam, we see that he's a changed man, obviously. Do you think
Mhm.
that Klaus changed Dave at all as well?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that love, in any real sense, I think that both people are changed by it.
Hmm.
I think that, um, yeah, it's tricky in a relationship that there is part of you that you sort of alter with that love in a way. It's not to say that you need to sort of compromise yourself, but yeah, I think that ultimately when you spend so much time around a person, that they do sort of alter your DNA just in virtue of who they are. And um, ultimately that's like being with a different person. They're going to, I mean, there's a sense of understanding and shared worldview that you want to have with the people that you love, but at the end of the day, they're a different person, and they're going to shed light onto things that you haven't seen, in certain ways before. So I'm sure that there are definitely things that are brought into the relationship, and just in virtue of who Klaus is, right? Like Dave, I think, is really soft spoken. We obviously see some of his background in season 2. There's he comes from a bit more of obviously a conservative background, and so obviously who Klaus is going to come into the relationship and sort of affect things and temper things the other way. Obviously there's certain things that the qualities of Dave that have sort of grounded and soothed Klaus, but yeah, going the other way, I'm sure that maybe he's pulled Dave out of his shell a bit.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. I would think so because Klaus is so out there and wild,
I
and
think you even
like you
see that
said, we
in
saw how
the sort
kind
of
of reserved and coy almost that Dave was in season 2. So I definitely think he
yeah.
had played a major part on how his character developed. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel that it's even from the playing of it. I remember the first scene we actually shot was that dance scene in the bar in Vietnam.
Hmm.
And funny enough, it was like this bar that I love in Toronto that's unfortunately shut down now called the Boat. And there was a sense of Robert was so good at just immediately kind of throwing himself in. And there to me, it's kind of this invitation to go there as well. And so I think that to Dave there's this quality of like, oh, this person's, opening up a bit more and allowing themselves to be goofy and strange or whatever. So I can do that too. You know when that happens, when there's certain people that kind of give you that subconscious permission to open up a bit more. I definitely felt that on the day. Um, and then that can shift a bit. Like I think that there was different moments too where I felt like Dave opens up first, and so it's like it was a great dynamic. I think built in and baked into that relationship.
Hmm. Oh, awesome. Very good answer.
Mhm.
All right, and then my last question. This one is also from Nora, and this one's kind of delving into kind of like fan theory stuff. So I don't know if you have any theories on Dave, since you're also a fan of the show as well, like
Mhm.
just along. And I don't know also if maybe they tell you things obviously while you're recording and everything, but there's a theory floating around that in an effort to force Klaus back to his original timeline in 2019, that Dave was killed by the Commission in Vietnam. And the reason for this theory is that the bullet hole in his chest is bigger than the one in his back, which is signifying it's likely an exit wound, which suggests he was shot from behind and not by the Vietnamese soldiers. Do you have any thoughts on this theory?
Oh, that's interesting. It's funny. I've heard that floated around a bit too. Um, I'm more on your side as the audience. That I am interested in all kinds of speculation, and I don't have a solid answer for you. It sounds like an interesting theory. I know that on the day, um, I think that the quality of the injury too is was for a lot of it's for dramatic effect, right? That there's a sense that he thinks Dave is still there, and Dave has been sort of mortally wounded without his knowing. But you're right. Was it from sort of Vietnamese fire or somewhere else? And I wish I could definitively say, but I don't know. Especially with the way the show sort of twists and turns, and you're right of how people move through the timelines and stuff like that. So I definitely heard a lot of things. You're right. It's the Time Commission. There's things like number five. I've heard. There's a lot of different stuff out there, and it's part of the excitement of the show is that kind of speculation. So I guess we'll another thing we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly. I fully agree. That's one of the things I actually love about the show is how much speculation there is left for the fans. Like, they're like, oh, what did that mean? Oh, what does this mean? And I don't know. It's just really cool. But anyways, I just wanted to thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking the time to talk with me, and then I'll leave you alone and let you
Oh
talk with
no, no
others.
worries. Again, it's like COVID times, so there's not
Hmm.
much going on. It's like I literally woke up from a nap here at like 7:30, so time doesn't exist over here.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.
You too.